Good morning, everyone. In last class, we were discussed about AWD controls, such as how to create a labels, how to create buttons, check boxes, and list boxes, and scroll bars, text box. So these are all topics we have discussed in the previous concept. Now we are going to discuss a new concept called as layout managers. So what is meant by layout manager is layout manager is nothing but whatever the components we have previously discussed, that is text box. So these all components arranged on a container. What is a container is, for example, in Java we have a different kind of containers like a panel, and we have a frame. So like that we are having different kind of container. What is containers? Which will hold the components. And array, what are the components? The text box is a component, list box is a component, radio button is a component, checkbox is a component, text area is a component. So like that we have various components are there. So arrangement of these components on the container is taken by the concept called as the layout managers. So what is a layout manager is it will arrange the components. So for example, if you are having a frame like this, for example, you have buttons are there. If you want to arrange one button at the this area, and for example you want to arrange one button here, and you want to arrange one button here, and that is at the borders you are allotting the buttons like this. If you want to allot the buttons, button 1, button 2, like this, if you want to arrange, for this Java provides a layout called as the border layout. So like this we have different types of, so that is what is a layout manager is, so whatever the components are there, the components are arranged according to the our requirement. So that is nothing but the layout managers. And also these layout managers will arrange the buttons, whatever the components in the given specific area. So for example, if you give you this much of area only, in that area they will adjust. If you give large amount of area, in that large amount of area also they will arrange. So finally what we can understand about the layout manager is, layout manager is nothing but arranges the components on the container. So for example, what are the different types of layout managers are available for is, the first layout manager which is available for us is flow layout manager. So what is this for particular flow layout manager is simply arranges the components from left to right. For example, if you are having a frame like this and you are having n number of buttons, so it arranges first button here, second button, and third button like this. The buttons are arranged from left to right. And also there is one more possibility is there. You can also specify whether you want to only align the left or center or right also. That is according to our justification they're going to arrange. And also if you want to arrange the if you doesn't specify anything, the buttons are going to align in the center. The flow layout, whatever the flow layout we just were discussing, it is the default for panel component. For example, if you are using an applet, if you are using a applet, for the applet whatever the components we are having, if you don't arrange any layout, they will follow a layout scheme called as the flow layout. So flow layout I can simply explain through a simple program, try to understand. So see this particular program, how I am going. So for example, here I have a class called as flow, which is extending a frame. So here to arrange the my buttons, I am using a container called as the frame. So for this particular frame, I want to whatever the frame class extended by my class flow, I want to set the layout called as the flow. How I can set the flow layout for my current class is by using a method called as the set layout. Set layout of new flow layout. So automatically whatever the current class of the flow I have, which is the child of the frame class, so automatically the frame class properties are inherited to the my flow class. So what I am telling is my flow class has to follow a layout scheme called as the flow layout. By how I am specifying that is by using a method called as the set layout. Now what I am simply doing is by using a simple for loop, I am creating 9 buttons, and whatever the buttons which are created, I am going to add these buttons to my frame by using a method called as add. We already know that, but you can have a method called as add, which will use it to add a component to the container. If you want to add a component to the container, how we can add is by using a method called as add. And after that, I want to my frame visible for visible. How I can make it is by using a method called as set visible true. It will make my frame visible to the user. And after that, I want to make the frame size width and height values. So how I can set is by using a method called as set size of 300 comma 300. So width of 300 and height of 300. Like this, I can create a frame. So I can again repeat. So here, how I am creating a frame is I am creating a class called as a flow, and which is extending the frame class. So automatically the frame class properties, which are, what is a frame? Frame is a container. So all the properties of the frame container are inherited to the flow class. Now whatever the components which I am going to place on my flow class, I want to arrange with the layout called as the flow layout. How I am making it is going to happen is with the help of the method called as set layout of new flow layout. And after that, I am creating the 9 buttons, and those whatever the buttons I am creating, the 9 buttons, those buttons are going to add it to my container class flow by using a method called as a add. And after that, with the help of the set visible method, I'm making my class, my frame visible, and after that I'm mentioning the width and height. And after that, what is the purpose of this particular portion of code? Please try to understand is, for example, after our program completes, I want to close my frame. So automatically that closing of frame is going to generate an event called as, is going to generate a window event. So for that, I am adding a listener called as the add window listener. So anything is going to happen with respect to the window, that event is going to register with the listener called as the window listener. And within this here window listener, I am writing my anonymous class. So the window listener class is having so many methods are there. Those are all the classes are methods I doesn't want to implement. For that, I am using here adapter class. So rather than window event class, here I am using window adapter class. So if you use adapter classes, we doesn't need to implement all the methods. Whatever the specific method we require, that only method we can implement. So here I required only the window closing only. So I have discussed the what is the requirement of what is meant by adapter classes in the last class. Please try to understand. So what are the previous videos are there? In the previous video, you can try to understand what is the difference between window event class and adapter classes. So here in the adapter class, I want to provide the body for the only for the method window closing, and here within that particular window closing method, I am calling a simple simple code called as system dot exit of 0. Then automatically the program will be turned off. So like this, whenever I click the close button, automatically my program will come out of the execution. For that, I have written this particular portion of code. Now, simply. So try to see the output, then you can understand how this particular program is going to execute. So see here, automatically I have created 9 buttons, and 9 buttons are arranged from left to right fashion. I can prove one more alone. Now I am increasing this particular frame size. See this. So they are automatically arranging from left to right. So this is how we can create a layout called as the flow layout. So see here. Now I just reduce the size. All the buttons are arranged from top to bottom. So if you have a more horizontal space, they will align from left to right. If you are having more vertical space, they are going to arrange from top to bottom. So this is how the flow layout is going to work out. So I again repeat, what is the flow layout is? A flow layout is a simple layout. If you want to arrange the components of the container from left to right, the default layout we have to use is flow layout, and flow layout is the default layout for the panel class called as the applet. So next topic what we are going to discuss is next topic what we're going to discuss is grid layout. So for example, if you want to develop this kind of, for example, a matrix kind of shape. So for example, like this, if you want rows and columns, for example, here I have three rows, three columns. So one each and every cell wants to have one particular component. If you want to arrange the component in this particular fashion, for that we will use a layout called as the grid layout. And one more thing what I want to discuss is there is one more layout called as the grid bag layout. It is most different, similar to the grid layout, but some variations are there that we are going to discuss in the next topic. Please try to listen that one also. So what is a grid layout is if you want to arrange the components in a row and a column fashion, for that we can use a layout called as the grid layout. So I can show you this part also with help of small program. Try to understand. So what is that program? Simply we have written is same. What are the previous program written? The same program. See here. I had made my set layout as the grid layout, and I want three rows and four columns. So how many rows I want to column? Three rows and four columns. So my grid class is also extending the frame class, and for particular this particular new grid class, I want to make the layout as the grid layout. How I make it is set layout of new grid layout, and the layout should contain three rows and four columns. For that I given 3 comma 4. Now I required three rows, four columns means around 12 cells will be there. For 12 cells I am creating 12 buttons, and with the help of add method I am adding those methods, adding the buttons to my. So I have made my frame visible with the help of the method called as set visible. And after that, I have mentioned my width and height of the frame by using the set size method. And for closing also, previously I am explained, here I am adding the window listener. And so see this program, how it is going to work out. So see here. Previously, there is no good alignment. Now, exactly what we made is we have made three rows and four columns, and each every cell is occupying a particular button. So this is how, if you want, it is basically useful for example, if you want to create some kind of menus or some kind of calculator programs. So if you want to align them properly, so for that this particular grid layout is more useful. So next to layout is border layout. So what is this particular border layout is, if you want to place the components in the container at the borders. At the borders, if you want to arrange this particular any component, for that we use a layout called as the border layout, and this particular border layout is a default for window and frame. So wherever you are using any frame window, if you don't mention for applet, the flow layout is the default layout. Panel for panel or applet, the default layout is the flow layout. For frame and window, the default layout is the border layout. So now I will explain this particular border layout also with the help of a small program. Please look after this. So here, no. So for my program, whatever my border class, it is extending the frame class, and how I made my border class as a having a layout called as border layout is by using a method called as set layout of new border layout. And how I make exactly the buttons at a fixed particular position is, see this, add new button not, so the button name is not, and I want to make align that particular button exactly at the north position. How I made is, here I am specifying a parameter constant, that is border layout dot north. So automatically the button is going to place at the north position only. So after that I have east button place the east position, south button is going to place at south position, so center button is going to place at the center. So like this, with the help of these constant parameters, I am aligning a particular button exactly at fixed place. So see the program execution. So see this. Here exactly the north button is placed exactly at the north position, and the south button has placed exactly at south position, east button at the east position, and west and center. So like this, if you want to align your buttons in the corners of the or edges of the window, we have to use a layout called as the border layout. And also border layout is the default layout for frame and window. So next layout we are going to discuss is card layout. So whenever you are requiring pack of cards, for example, if you have a set of cards, if you take one card, top of that card, and bottommost card is available. Like this, we have pack of cards or like that. If you want to, if you have a requirement of set of pack of cards, the default layout we can use is the card layout. So for example, how this particular card layout is going to work is, for example, see this. For example, you are having three cards. So card 3, on top of card 3, we will place a new card called as card 2. On top of card 2, we can place another card called as the card 1. For example, if you click on the first card, second, if you remove the first card, the second card will come out. And if you click on the second card, third card, like this, if you want to align them bottom to top way, for that we can use a layout called as the card layout. See the program, then you can understand. First I will show the execution, then you can better understand how this particular card layout is going to work out. See here, first of all, I'm seeing only one only. If I click on the one, automatically the two card is coming. If I click on two, until I click on the now if I click on three again, one will come. So until I click doesn't perform clicking, only one is only visible. After clicking on the one layout is removed and the bottom with two layout is coming. If I again click on the two, so like this, the set of card, first card, second card, third card, like that, we can align from top to bottom. So see the program how it is happened is, here I am using a simple concept. So how I have made my particular layout as a card layout is set layout of cards. Then after that, I have added three buttons. I have added the three buttons. Add new button of one, and how I am added to the particular card is with the help of, so add new button comma 1 comma 1. So add new button of 2 comma 2, like this I had made three different cards. So when I am performing the action, automatically the compiler is going to call a method called as action, and here I am performing a method called as next, executing a method called as next, cards dot next. So cards is representing the card layout, so cards dot next of this, so automatically next like this the cards are moving from one position to the other position. So this is how I had made the layout called as the card layout. And after that, next layout we are going to discuss, that is grid bag layout. What is grid bag layout is, so directly I can show the one picture, then you can better understand. So normally this is how normally, for example, previously we have used grid layout. What is grid layout is arrangement of components in row and column manner. So in that particular grid layout, it is not possible to align the buttons exactly in one particular cell. That means, for example, I doesn't want any cell in the 00 position. I want a cell in only 10 position only. I doesn't want a cell in the 20 position. I want the cell in 11 position. 11 position. Like this, if you want to put a particular component in a particular cell only, that is possible in the grid bag layout, which is not possible in the layout called as the grid layout. So how we going to perform this particular thing? I can show with the help of small program. Please look after that. So see here, I had made I had made my layout as a new grid bag layout with the help of the method set layout of new grid bag layout. Then after that, see here. So what I have done is, here I have created one object called as constraints for a class called as the grid bag constraints. That is, if you want whatever the but components you are going to add to the grid bag layout with some specific constraints, those constraints we are going to specify with the help of this particular object called object of grid bag constraint. So with, and also here I am using a method called as add grid bag method. So rather than add method, here I am using add grid bag layout method. See here, what are the parameters I am passing. Here I am written, I am passing the parameters add GB of new button of north comma x is equal to 1 comma y is equal to 0. That is what I want to make. I want to place the button north in a position x is equal to 1 comma y is equal to 0. So where exact that particular position is there, I have shown in the slide also. This is the position exactly. So I want to make the button to be placed in the 1 0 position. How I am specifying that is with the help of this button. So whatever the parameters I am passed here, they will be. So that's why add GB method. So what I am passing here, I am passing the button. That's why I have written as the, I am receiving it as a component. And what are the values? X is equal to 1 stored in X variable and Y is equal to 0 is stored in the Y variable. Now simply what I am making is, I am whatever the para values I am passing, I am assigning to the constraint dot grid x. So is equal to x. Constraint dot grid y is equal to y. So they will make that whatever the component I passed here, it will be placed according to the constraints given. See here. Now add of component comma constraints. Add of component. So the component is added according to the constraint. So this is how we are made the north button is placed exactly the 1 comma 0 point. Like that I have passed the west button, center, east, a particular position. So whatever the position values were passed, according to the passed position values, the components are going to be. So this is how we are implementing the grid back layout. So please see the execution, how this particular program is working. So see here, exactly the north button is placed at the 1 0 position, and after that the south button placed at the 1 comma 2 position. So like this, we have placed the buttons at fixed position, which is not possible in a layout called as the grid layout. So next topic in the grid bag layout only, the next topic we will discuss. See, please follow. So for example, previous program, the buttons are very small. I want to make them very larger buttons. How I can make, which is going to happen is, see here, in the now I'm using the two more things. One is constraint dot weight x is equal to 1.0, constraint dot weight y is equal to 1.0. So this made my particular buttons are to be expanded. My buttons are going to be expanded. So and also it has to be expanded both in x and y ways. That is how I have mentioned constraint dot fill is equal to grid back constraint both. I want to expand the button in terms of both the x and y positions. That's why I specified constraint dot fill is equal to grid back constraint dot both. See the same program, only I want to make the larger button. How this particular program is working, please look ahead. So previously the buttons are very smaller. Now I made them both expanded in terms of x and y dimensions. So understand. Next topic is in the grid bag layout only. The topic is, see here. What I want to make it is, previously I have the buttons are arranged in a normal order only. Now what is my requirement is, see here, I have two rows. See here, I have two rows. See here, I have two rows are there and I have three columns are there. But what is my requirement is, my first cell, that is the cell 00, is to occupy two columns. It need to occupy not it need to occupy two rows. That is, it has to be expanded from first row to the second row. Both first row and second row should be occupied by the element called as the 0 0. And next, see here. Here I have a cell called as 1 1. It need to occupy two columns. That is, it has to occupy the cell 1 1 and also occupy the second column 2 column. So like this, I want to have my cell width to be cell with 2 and cell height also 2. That is cell height 2 means it need to occupy 2 rows. Cell with 2 means we need to occupy 2 columns. How we going to do this? So I will show this a small example program. Please see this. So same previous program, but here I am mentioning the simple exemption. What are the simple exemptions I am making is, so constraint dot grid height. So what is our requirement? The first cell need to occupy 2 cells. So in terms of rows only. So that's why I am making constraint dot grid height is equal to 2. So this will make that particular cell, what are the current cell we are going to create, it has to occupy 2 cells in terms of height. In terms of height. So that's why the cell x00 will occupy the 2 row. Again, after setting that, if you want to coming back again, why we need to come again backwards is the cell 10, you need to only one cell. That's why again I mentioned that constraint dot grid height is equal to 1. So after that I am adding my 2 button and 3 button, and after that now I want to add my fourth button, which is need to occupy the 1 1 comma 2 1 also. For that again what I am specifying here, I am occupying in terms of horizontally. For that I have mentioned constraint dot grid width is equal to 2. So that has made that particular 4 cell 4 is need to occupy 2 columns. So after that again coming back for the next remaining cells, I made constraint dot grid width is equal to 1. So with the help of the two parameters, one is constraint dot grid height is equal to 2 and second one constraint dot grid width is equal to 2. I will occupy the 2 columns and 2 rows, which made, see the program how these particular cells are going to be displayed. So see this, how these particular cells are arranged. So this is how the first cell is occupied the 2 rows, and here the fourth cell is occupied the 2 columns. So this is how we can create the grid bag layout. So by this topic is completed. Thank you very much.